in your tutorial there is question discussing about each of these one by one. Okay, so from what I have discussed, okay, last lecture I have discussed each of this process, and I would like to recall back who are the roles involved in each of these phases for us to identify who are the people, who are the roles involved during review process. Okay, so let's start to see from the planning process. So, in planning process, is there any particular role has been mentioned? If there is any particular roles mentioned in the planning process, what do we do in the planning process? What we do in the planning process? I just met someone yesterday, group 2. I just go through the question yesterday, am I right? So during the planning, what are the things happening? So is there any special role has been mentioned there? There is. It means there is someone have a responsibility in the phase. In the planning process, do we have any specific role mentioned? Secretary. Why? In the planning, what we do? We need to decide on which document we want to review, which technique of review which we want to use, and according to that, we are going to form the review team. So in that case, is there any specific role mentioned? No. Okay. So in the first planning process, there is no special role given there. Okay, in the second process, kick-off process or the overview, any specific role mentioned? Now we have the sharing part happen. So the sharing of the information to the review team members, okay, and also sharing of the document to review to the individual reviewers will be done by the secretary. Okay, so we have this one role called secretary who is going to share all this information and also the document which we want to review. So there is one role there. Okay, then in the third phase, review process or individual preparation. So what is happening? Sorry. What is happening in the individual preparation? Who is involved in the individual preparation?
Reviewer.
Only the reviewers. Okay, the other team members of the review team is not doing anything. So individual preparation will be done by the reviewers. So let's assume we have decided to review our requirement document, our SRS, Software Requirement Specification document. So when we are forming our review team, we have to make sure that we are selecting the reviewers from the requirement areas. Who has the knowledge, who has the experience for them to do the review on the document. When I want to review requirement document, I cannot go and bring someone from the testing site because they are not having the same domain here. Okay, so here individual preparation will be the reviewers. Normally we will have multiple reviewers. So these reviewers need to do the study on the given document. So when they do the individual preparation, it means they do the study, they go through the document, they try to understand if there is any issue on the document. So any comments, any question, any suggestion. So all this need to be prepared early. So reviewers will be the role here. Okay, then we move to the review meeting. So this is individual review meeting. And what are the roles here? In the review meeting, what are the roles involved here?
Review leader.
Who is going to be the chair for the meeting? Who is going to lead the review meeting?
What a review leader.
Review leader. Okay, so among the reviewers there will be the review leader, or we call as a moderator. So this person will be in charge of leading the review meeting. So as a chairperson, this review leader need to make sure that every reviewer is able to voice up the question, the suggestion, any comments, any questions which they found out during the individual preparation. Okay, and this chairperson also need to make sure that the review meeting will be going on well, smoothly, without any issue, within the given time limit. Okay, then the review leader will be the person to give the final recommendation. So let's assume we have 3 reviewers. Each of these reviewers give their own opinion, but the review leader will be the one give the final recommendation of what to do. Okay, if it's yes, no, okay, not okay, these final words will come from the review leader. Okay, then we have rework. So what happened here? Who are the people involved here?
Author.
Sorry? Project manager. Okay, so when we set rework here, the project manager will be there. Project manager as part of the review team will be deciding either the given recommendation can be followed or not. Because project manager is the one managing the timeline, managing the resources, managing the budget, and so on. So in case if you are doing any minor changes or major changes, if it's going to be giving any negative impact to the project, so project manager will be the one knowing that. So project manager will do the final decision how to do the rework. Can we follow 100% the recommendation given or no? Okay, so project manager will do the decision there. Based on the decision made by the project manager, who is going to do the rework?
Document author.
The author of the document. So we have one more role here, who is the author of the document. So when we are reviewing our requirement document, it means the person who come up with the requirement document is who we are calling as the author. So during the review meeting, this author cannot voice out anything. They cannot argue what they do is correct or not correct, nothing. Okay, they only need to listen in the review meeting. And according to the recommendation, according to the decision made, the author will be there to do the rework. So let's assume this entire document cannot be used. Come up with a new one. The author need to come up with a new one. Or there is these changes need to be done. The author will do the changes. So whatever decision made, the author will do the rework. Okay. Then we move to the follow-up. So who are the roles involved here in follow-up?
Project manager or review leader.
Who will do follow-up and what they are going to follow up? Project manager or the review leader. Okay, either one or both of them, they are going to do the follow-up. Follow up the rework done by the author. So they want to make sure the rework has been done, settling all the issue. Now the document is good. So if the follow-up gone successfully, everything is okay, then our review meeting is successfully done. So let's assume during the follow-up there is some things which is not settled. The decision made is not being followed, and then the rework is not 100% done, then they might need to call for the second review meeting. Okay, so this will be the review process and the roles involved. Clear? So this sequence is very important. Okay, don't mess up the sequence. It always start with the planning, kick off, individual preparation, review meeting, rework, and follow up. Got it? Okay, so the next thing is the types of review. So as what we have seen in the beginning of the chapter, review is a general term or common term which will be used for any types of static testing or any types of review which will be conducted. Okay, so that's why in the planning stage just now we need to decide which technique we want to use. So from there we will know how to conduct the technique. Okay, so here we have few different types of review. Start from the most informal to the most formal review technique. So when we say formal, informal, normally informal means we might not have meeting, we might not need any review team, okay, we might not need to do any documentation, any reporting. This is the most informal one. Okay, so let's assume we move from the most informal to be a bit formal, like in the between. Okay, maybe we will have one round of meeting, only one time. Okay, they might not need any follow-up. You just do that. So there is no follow-up, there is no formal documentation. But when we say formal review, then we are going to have a formal review team. We are going to have a formal meeting more than one time. We are going to have a formal documentation, formal follow-up. This is the difference between informal, semi-formal, and the most formal one. What is the difference? So when we said we are going to conduct the review, any of this type of review might be needed at different stages of the development or preparation of the documentation and so on. Got it? So that's why we need to decide which technique we want to use. Okay, so we have 6 different types of review. We will go through it one by one. So we will start from the code review, desk checking, pair programming, code walkthrough, technical review, and inspection or formal inspection. Okay, so the first one, code review. Please just remember, static testing means you are not going to execute the code. Still remember, we are not going to run the code, we are not going to give any input, we are not going to see any correctness of the output, nothing. So here is more on the documentation, even though we are dealing with the source code, but it is not about executing the source code. So here when we say code review, we actually want to evaluate the code structure between the developers and the testers. So before the development of the source code, we might need to know the code structure together. Okay, so here the aim of the code review is to understand the standard which need to be followed, the procedures, how the programming will be done later, how the code written need to be done. So we need to make sure that every programmer understand how the procedure, how the standard, even a simple comment. It is very important for us to have a proper standard to follow. When you guys are writing the programming code, okay, I believe that from the first programming code which you gone in your year 1 sem 1, okay, the first thing the lecturer will discuss is how to write comment. You know what is comment? On the source code, you will see there is comment section. What is the purpose of this comment? What is the purpose of writing comment on the source code? Yes, because you might not be the one going to read the code again, to take care of the code again, to maintain the code again. So when a new programmer look at your code, they must understand what is this code about. So the quality of writing this comment is very important. Even though this comment is just inactive code, it's not going to be running later, but it is very important when we are doing our maintaining of the source code later. Doesn't matter what type of maintenance you want to do, it will be involved of understanding the source code. So when the source code is so hard to understand, it is going to give bad impact on the maintenance activity later. Even when you are doing a debugging, when you are doing integration of the source code, when there is a poor quality of comments, to integrate, to do any debugging will be complicated. Okay, so that's why we need to do this code review where we want to ensure the consistency among the software developers. When more than one developers involved in the development, when they want to understand each other's code, when they want to share the work, when they want to integrate the work, consistency on writing the code is very important. So that's why we need to do the code review to go through all this in an early stage. Other than that, we must make sure that we are going to comply to the standard as what is needed to follow. So code review here before the development of the source code. So there is no execution of anything, but we are going to understand, evaluate the code structure which we need to follow in the future. Okay, so this is considered something informal. We are not going to have any team here, we are not going to have any formal meeting, formal documentation, nothing. Okay, then the next one is desk checking. So desk checking is known as the primary testing done on the source code. So when we say desk checking, let's assume you are the programmer here. You develop the source code. So don't you think you need to check your code? You will be the first person need to check your code. So normally we do this desk checking where the programmer check their own work. Okay, so this static checking will be done by the programmer who done the code. So if you are the one who done the code, you will be the one doing the desk checking here before the compilation or the execution of the source code. So normally when we say desk checking, it means we can have like a checklist, or we can have like a manual things which we will be preparing before we are doing the execution on the source code later. So if there is any error identified, you are the one going to know it, you are the one going to correct it. So according to the requirement, the way you are writing the code, is it correct or not, you check by yourself. So when you check your own work, we don't need to make it formal. You don't need to go and inform everybody how many defects you have identified. Okay, you find it, you fix it before it will move to the next level. So this desk checking is also under the informal review category. So you check your own desk. That's it. Okay. Then we have pair programming. So we move a bit more formal, where we bring in another person. Okay. So you guys suppose should know about this pair programming, where a work will be shared by two programmers. It is still within the same domain. It means it is still within the programming side. Programmers will be the one involved here. So two programmers will be sharing a workstation where one person will write the code, one person will review the code. Okay, so this is actually introduced by the extreme programming process model. So they give importance on the quality of the source code because it is always proof that you might not able to identify your own mistake. So that's why we always have another person who can review your code and identify the defect. Okay, so this will be having a role where the person who prepared the code is known as a driver, who is writing the code, and who is reviewing the written code is called as a navigator. Okay, and this role will be swapped. So the driver will become the navigator will become the driver. So it means they will be sharing the work. So the code will be prepared by both, the code will be reviewed by both. So compared to the desk checking where you check your own individual code, now another person, another programmer will do the checking for you. Okay, so it's move a bit more. Okay. Then we have code walkthrough. Okay, so code walkthrough is actually in the between of informal and the formal. Okay, where we will have a single meeting. It is not really 100% formal yet. Okay, it is known as a less formal. So we will have one round of meeting. So in code walkthrough, okay, what happened here is we want to evaluate the code which has been written, okay, where how we write the code, how efficient is the code, okay, where it can give defect, where is the possibilities can give impact on the performance, and how we can improve the source code. Okay, so we will evaluate the source code against to the requirement or the specification and also the standard. So it can be programming standard or it can be software standard. Okay, so in this code walkthrough, testers, programmers, a group of programmers, because whoever involved in the development will need to join the meeting. So here we don't have 100% finalized test cases yet. Okay, but the tester will come with a paper test case. So according to how the code has been written, they actually will execute the test case without running it yet. Okay, because like what we said, in static testing, we don't execute anything yet. So this paper test case will be mentally executed to know if this logic is correct or not, if this logic can work or not. So we are not checking the correctness of the output yet. Okay, so we just want to see if the code written is efficient, if it's correct according to the programming, according to the standard, and can it give us the output or not. So it will be something manually. In an early stage, we prepare the test case and to know what might happen, but without any execution of code yet. Okay. So after the code walkthrough, we have technical review. So technical review, by the name itself, it will be on the technical areas of the software development. Okay, the project site will involve with the technical qualified people who can do the review about the other side of the software development. So when we say technical, it means more to the software, hardwares, equipments, devices, whatever need to be used for the development of the project. So at the same time, if these technical areas is following the given specification, is it following the standards or not? So for example, you say that, okay, you are going to develop using this programming language, using this database, it's going to be run on this server. So all these technical areas need to be reviewed by the qualified people, if this is workable or not. Not after you propose and you didn't review anything, and when you want to develop, things are not working. So that's why we need to have the technical review also. Okay, so this is consider start with a bit formal, where we are involving outside people. It means not the programmer, but the one having the technical knowledge. Okay, then the last one is the formal inspection. So this is the most formal review types. Okay, the last one, the formal inspection. So when we say formal inspection, it means we are going to have a formal team. We are going to have few rounds of formal meetings. We are going to have formal documentation. We are going to have formal rework and follow-up. All this will be more formal. Okay, so when we say formal inspection, the team for the inspection might be involved with the specialist. Specialist will be someone from a specific domain. Okay, and then the designer, the author, and also the moderator. So based on what we want to inspect, okay, then the people will be coming from the respective areas. So here what will happen is programmers, okay, you have no choice. You need to describe how you have written the source code line by line. Okay, so it means we try to make everybody to understand how the logic of the programming is working. Okay, because not everyone is going to be running with the compiler here. So the programmer who has the logic sense, who has come up with the source code, they will be the one describing the line of code to explain how the logic at the back of the source code work. Okay, so the other the other team members who has any question, who has any issue, who feel that the logic is not really okay, they will be raised up all this, okay, during the meeting. Okay, so the program will be analyzed according to the checklist. So the checklist here is what formal documentation I said. So it means there is a formal checklist has been prepared, and during the formal inspection, we will check based on what listed on the checklist. Okay, if everything is fulfilled or not fulfilled. Okay, and then report will be produced according to this inspection. There will be formal report produced, and rework need to be done because it will be followed with a follow-up. So it means this is the issue, and then the correction or the rework need to be done. Then we are going to have another round of meeting to do the follow-up. Okay, so here, since it is more to the logic for the programming, the source code, so any logical defects or any logical issues on the programming will be identified. Okay, so other than that, during the meeting, the data will be collected, okay, from the inspection process. So they will collect the data. Okay, so the collected data will be analyzed. So this is before they want to do any improvement, any changes. So the data which they have collected is going to be analyzed, and how the improvement going to be done. So after the improvement, there will be comparison happen on the data which was collected before the improvement and after the improvement. So that's why I said when it comes to formal inspection, there will be few round of meetings happen. So in every meeting, every improvement, there will be new data collection happen. So it will be compared to check how is the improvement effect. Okay, so here the inspection's main aim here is we want to detect any issues, any defects, and then how we can fix them, how we can improve them before it can give any impact on the working software later. Okay, so that will be the 6 different types of the review. Please don't get confused between the review process. We have the 6 process just now, and this is 6 types of review, which is start from the informal, less formal, and then the most formal one. Okay. Okay, then after that, the last part is nothing much here. Okay, the last part is after we done with the review. Okay, part of the static testing, we also have static analysis. We also have control flow analysis, and also we have data flow analysis. Okay, so if you see all these 3, static analysis, control flow analysis, data flow analysis, something which might need the help of a tool, but not compiler to execute the code, but we call as an analysis tool. Okay, so when we say static analysis tool, where we want to identify any defects in any document, even on the source code. So here, when we said with the help or with the support of tool, it's not about running the code to see the output. No, normally if you see when you use the compiler, you actually still able to identify any syntax errors happen. So that when you analyze the code, it means there is syntax error, and then we need to correct it. Okay, so sometimes when we said we want to analyze the source code to check how is the program has been written. So this is not about giving input to see output, but we want to see if the source code is following the programming standard or not. So it means the way you are declaring variables, the way you give a name for functions, is there any variables is not being declared but is being called, or is it being declared but it's not being used? So all these kind of issues can give impact on the source code performance day by day later. Okay, so for that we might need to conduct the static analysis or the control flow analysis or the data flow analysis for us to identify any issue on the efficiency or on the way of the source code has been written. So doing this analysis all is not executing the code for seeing the output. Just remember that. So we have a lot of static analysis tool in the market where it can help you to let you know that how good you have written your source code. It is not about identifying defect, but it's about how you can improve your source code. Maybe it can give you like this. So from the tool, okay, it can give you the comments about your source code. What are the part which is actually under the defects? What are the part which is under violation of the standard? What are the part which is something like a warning, where if you don't change it, how it's going to impact later, and how you can actually improve your source code. So this is nothing about identifying output and to see there is any defect stopping the output. But this is to analyze the code. Let's assume because I know that when it comes to your final project, it is more about testing the code. It means you don't do static testing, but you will directly jump to dynamic testing because you want to see if the source code give you the output or not. So let's assume whatever project you are doing, it's for long term. Maybe you are doing for industry project, or you want to put it for any competition or anything, CBIF side. All this is actually for long-term project. So in that case, it is very important to see how you have written the code. So this static analysis tool will be a supporting tool, can let you know how you can improve the code before you can conduct the dynamic testing later. Got it? As how you analyze the document to correct the document to make the document look better. So the same thing goes here. Static analysis tool will be helpful to analyze the source code and how you can improve the source code. Okay? So as part of that, it means as part of the source code analysis, we also have the control flow analysis where we will try to evaluate the sequence of the program. So it means your source code, you have a control flow there. It means like, okay, after this, it will do this. If the condition is true, what happened? If the condition is false, what happened? If the condition is true, it's going to enter the loop. If it's not, it's going to exit the loop. So there is a flow happen here. So before we can conduct our dynamic test later, we can conduct the control flow analysis to check if the control flow or if the sequence of the program is written correctly or not. Okay, so all this actually manual work. So you need the knowledge, you need the programming knowledge to understand the source code, and then you translate the source code into a control flow graph and then to identify. So later in our chapter 5, we will actually do this. Did you see the control flow graph? It means we are going to translate. We cannot do this after we completed the development. We are not going to translate thousands of line of code. So normally we will take pieces of code, like functionalities by functionalities, few lines of code, and then we will translate where we want to identify the source code written is having a correct control flow or not. So this is 100% manual work to be done. Okay? So other than that, okay, this is the one, the flow chart. So we are not going to do anything with the flow chart, but we are going to translate the source code into control flow graph. This is your chapter 5 later. Okay. Then the last part will be the data flow analysis. So not only to make sure the control flow is working correctly, but it is very important to know how is the data flow in your source code. Because this data which you declare, which you call to use, can actually take the space of your storage. So when you are giving any wasted space, it can give impact on the performance of the software later. So it is very important to know how is the life cycle of the data. When we said life cycle of the data, how we define the data, how we use the data, and after we use, how we destroy the data. Because some programming language, is actually requiring you to still indicate manually that this data must be destroyed after being used in the function, for example. Because if you don't do that, it's going to carry a space. So when every time the source code is going to run, it's going to accumulate the spacing. So this can actually slow down the performance of the source code. It can disturb the efficiency of the source code. So it is very important for us to do the data flow analysis to identify any issue on the data. For example, any uninitialized data or variables, and then unused variable. You are declaring the variable, but you are not using it. So what is the purpose? So some programming language, some programming language compiler, they don't detect this. So this can actually give a bad impact on the performance of the source code. Okay, so this is just an example of the data flow analysis. So if you see, each of these have a meaning. D is for defined, K is for killed, and then U for used. So if you see the combination of these, what will be the description and what will be the possibilities of the issue happen. So if you see there is a defect, there is a bad programming practice, there is harmless but suspicious. So all this tool can help us to let us know what is the issue here, so that we can do the improvement on the way we are handling the data in our program. So for example, if you kill the data object and then used, can it be done? Because you don't define it again, am I right? You don't initialize it again. So this is considered a defect. But if you say you define a data but you killed without using it, what is the purpose? Because it is considered under the bad practice of the programming. You kill the data object and then you killed it again. Can it be done? Because when you have destroyed the data, you need to reinitialize it back so that you can use it again. But if you use the source code in the wrong way, then this is considered as a bad practice. So some can turn into a defect, some can give impact on the performance. So that's why we need to do the analysis to identify all this earlier. Okay, so this is just the flow, the defined, the undefined, all this. Okay, so that's it for the chapter 3. So this is just a simple question and the answer together. Identify difference between desk checking, code walkthrough, and formal inspection. So this is the difference. And then compare the static testing technique, which is involve the program code in this chapter, and identify the advantages and limitation of them. So I have listed down each of them, and then the advantages and the disadvantages. Okay, so that's it for our chapter 3 for the static test. Okay, our chapter 4. Okay, so after done with the static testing, then the next thing should be the dynamic testing. So whenever I talk about the static testing, dynamic testing, I have mentioned this again and again. Static testing will be before the development, okay, and dynamic testing will be after the development. So when we say static testing, we are not going to execute anything yet. This is because we don't have the source code, or we don't do that yet. Because our focus, our aim here is we want to prevent defect. We are not trying to identify any defect yet, because we cannot execute, we cannot give input, we cannot get the output yet, because it's happened before the development. And when we say before the development, we only involve with the documents. So that's why we need to do the review, or we do the analysis here. Okay, clear? Clear? Okay, so the next part will be the dynamic testing. So dynamic testing will be after the development. So it means we have the source code or not? Yes. So this dynamic testing will be opposite of the static testing, where we need to execute the source code. Okay, so we are going to describe about the dynamic testing, explain about the black box, and we will go through types of the black box testing and then types of the black box testing technique. Okay, please do not get confused between the last two, black box testing type and black box testing technique type. It's two different things. Under the black box testing, some of the testing we already discussed in chapter 2. Okay, when we discuss about the higher order testing, we have go through like 15 different types of testing. So some of it is already discussed there. Okay, so let's see what we are going to talk about on the dynamic test. So as mentioned just now, dynamic test will be after the development. Now we have the source code. So we are going to conduct the dynamic test by executing the source code. This is an important point here. It is going to be done by executing the source code. So it means we are going to run the source code, we are going to provide the input to the source code, and we want to observe the output. So we want to see the correctness of the output. We want to see if the code is functioning well to give us the output or not. So, what is the aim of dynamic testing here compared to static testing? What is the aim of dynamic testing compared to static testing? Static testing, what is the aim? Are we already dealing with the defect? No. So, when we say static testing, it means our aim is to prevent the defect to happen. How we can make sure that all these documents will be good, will be correct, so that the defect can be prevented. Or we can reduce the defect rate, we can reduce the failure rate. Can we guarantee that? Can we guarantee that there will be zero defect? No, we try to prevent. Okay, we try to prevent, but we cannot confirm it. So for us to confirm, we will conduct the dynamic testing after the development. Because how you do the development? Based on whatever you have reviewed, the document, the requirement, the design. So now let's see if the code is correct or not. So now the aim of the dynamic testing here is to identify if there is any defect. No matter how try your best you are going to prevent, there is possibilities for defect to happen. Got it? Just because you are attending 14 weeks of class, can I confirm that you really understand? Can I say that, can we skip the final exam because you have attended for 14 weeks of class and we can guarantee that you pass this course? Cannot. Can never. Okay? So that is the reason why we are conducting the final exam, to see what you have learned for 14 weeks. So something like that. Just because you try your best to prevent the defect, do this review, do that inspection, but we still need to confirm if we able to reduce the defect rate or not. So we will conduct the dynamic testing to identify if there is any defect. So if there is defect, we need to do the fixing, so that before we can deploy the software or the system to the client side, you can still identify the defect and you can fix them. Okay, so in this case, dynamic task will need to have the creation of the test case, because you are going to perform the test according to what you want to test, what you prepare on the test case. White box, black box, both can have test cases. White box also still can. It means you have the line of code, you want to test the function of that code, so you can prepare the test case also. So it means for this line of code, what input to give and what you expect to see. So is this what you see or not? So white box also, while we are executing the source code, we can have test case. Other than that, of course, black box, we need to have the test case. So black box also, functionality, non-functionality still need test case. When you want to test on the performance, how we are going to prepare the test case? If we say that we want to test a function, normally we will have like a step by step, am I right? Okay, you click this and then you enter this. You know, it's like a step. But when we say we want to conduct stress tests, we want to conduct performance tests, how will be the test case look like? How we do performance tests? If we want to see if the website is performing or not, if the website can handle this many of data or not, we want to see. So how will be our test case? Is it similar to the functionality like step by step? No, but you are going to give the input in the manner of, okay, let's assume you give one device or one user access. What happened? When you increase from one user access to 100 user, what happened to the performance? What you expect to see and what you see. So if you increase from 100 user to 1,000 of student accessing to student intranet, what happened? The system down. You know, so we still have the test case, but the way we are preparing will be different. So same thing goes, white box will have its own way, black box will have its own way. Black box for functionality and non-functionality also will be prepared in a different way. But test case is a must, because this test case will be the proof of what you test and what you get, and if there is any defect, it will be reference for that. Okay? Okay, so when we said black box testing, okay, it means the system will be seen as a black box. So it means we don't care how the back-end source code is working. We don't try to understand the source code at the back. We don't try to analyze if the source code works correctly or not. So normally when we say white box testing will be conducted by the programmer, because the system needs to be analyzed through the source code. The programmer who written the code will understand the source code and see from the view of the developer if the source code is functioning well or not. But when we say black box testing, the system or the program will be seen in a black view. So what we can see? When we say black box, what actually we can see? Huh? We don't see anything. You don't see anything how you test. We see only the user interface. It means the front end of the system. What is the view of the user will see. That is what mean by black box. When you are deploying the system to the client, do you think your client will be trying to understand the source code at the back? Do they care how you do, how sleepless night were you to do the code? They don't care. What they care, what they can see as the graphical user interface, because that is what I can see, that is what I will use. So when we said black box testing, as a tester or even end user, they will view the program or the system or the software as a black box. It means only the front end part. Okay, so they don't concern on the internal structure, internal behavior of the source code. Okay, so test case will be prepared from the requirement, from the specification given. Okay, so if the requirement said the system should be able to display the report, so it means we are going to prepare the test case based on this requirement to see if the report is being displayed or not. So our test case will be derived from the requirement, from the specification, not from the design or the code. Okay, so normally black box we always start with the functional testing. So for your assignment, your scope is on the functionality testing, UI functionality testing, and also the error handling testing. So that's why for the test case, I already clearly mentioned that it will be positive and negative test cases. Okay, because our focus is on the functionality here. So after the functionality, then we can move to the non-functional side. Because both of these, they are very balanced. They need to be balanced. Because if the functionality all working fine, but the UI is not nice, the performance is not as how it's supposed should be, there is a long waiting time. So if this is how the performance will be, your end user will not happy. The same thing goes, no matter how nice is the user interface, how user friendly, how fast performance, but if the functionality is not doing what it's supposed should be, your client will not be happy too. So both of these functional and the non-functional area must be tested balanced. Okay? Okay, so here the goal of the black box testing is we want to find if there is any unexpected behavior happen. So the specification or the requirement say this, we expect to see this, but when we conduct the black box testing, we want to see how the system behave or how the system perform. Is it giving us what we expect to see or not? Okay, so these are the types of the black box testing. There is actually many more. Okay, so this is the one listed here. So we have go through, I think, most of it in our chapter 2. So let's try to recall back. What is each of these testing about? Okay, first one, functional testing. No worries, each of this explanation is at the back. So I just want to display this and then ask you what you understand. Okay, what is functional testing? What we do, how we do functional testing. What is the aim of functional testing? What is functional testing? Why we conduct functional testing? What is the aim of functional testing? I thought everybody was busy talking just now. See, now cannot hear any voice. Even the breathing also cannot hear. What is functional testing? I thought you said something. To test the function. Okay? That's it. Done. Okay, functional testing means we want to see the function, how the function should be functioning, the success of the function, and also the error part of the function. Okay? If your requirement said the success of the function, your requirement also said about this invalid data need to be detected and the error message should be prompt. Am I right? So we want to see the both success part in a positive way, in a negative way. Okay, so normally when we say to conduct the functional testing, we need to give the input for us to get the output. Okay, so the steps for the functional testing, normally we will identify which functions we want to test. Okay, and then we will create the input data according to the function specification. So it means the valid data, invalid data, and then we need to determine the output. It means according to this specification, this is what we expect, the expected result. Then we will execute the test case to see the actual result, so that we can compare the actual result and the expected result. Both of these results must be tallied. Then it's a pass test case. When our actual result is not tally with the expected result, it means there is a gap happen. So that gap is actually the defect. So that will be a failed test case. So then we need to identify what is the issue, where is the issue, then the development team will do the debugging. Because when we say functional is not working, where should be the root cause? If a function is not working, where is the root cause of the issue? The source code. Am I right? So when the issue is in the source code, can you as a tester fix it? Depends. If you are the all in all doing everything, then yes. If no means you are just testing here means, it means